we'll take you back to the second quarter, Clippers and Spurs. You say, who cares about that? Come on. Well, you'll care about this. Listen. So about 3 minutes to go before halftime. Yeah, nothing spectacular. Clippers are up by a few points. Nothing big. Spurs coach Greg Popovich became the story. He grabbed a microphone while Kawhi Leonard was going to the charity stripe. And rather than me tell you what he said, let's go to the audio tape. Here's the NBA coach Greg Popovich as he gives a lecture. Take a listen.
Kawhi with 8 points tonight, 3 of 5 from the floor. It is only 3.
Excuse me for a second.
Pops on the mic.
Stop all the booing and let these guys play. It's got no class. It's not who we are. Knock off the booing.
Pop telling the fans to lay off Kawhi Leonard. But that's not San Antonio.
So if you missed it, I think it was kind of obvious. He said, excuse me for a second. Can we stop all the booing and let these guys play? Have a little class. That's not who we are. Knock it off. Knock off the book. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about this now. The question, as we discussed, Greg Popovich defending the honor of his former player Kawhi Leonard wearing other laundry, and lecturing the customer. How do you categorize this story from the NBA? So I've got knockoff store brand laryngitis, which I hope not to get again, and Mr. October. We will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make 1 pound of fat, which is what you're going to gain. The average American gains 1 pound of fat between now and Christmas. So enjoy getting fat. So number one. Yeah. All right. So again, I'm just watching the Clipper game. I'm minding my own business. It's on in the background. I'm getting ready for the show. And then bam, out of nowhere, Greg Popovich, hostile takeover. He grabs the mic. He lambastes the fan. Now, I thought it was both amusing and I also wanted to puke in my mouth. I did. I mean, both those things were happening simultaneously. Now, this is equal parts unnecessary, and it was also, might I add, unsuccessful. You see, the fans heckled Kawhi more. They heckled Kawhi more. So if Popovich had ulterior motives, then his plan came together. But if what he said was on the straight and narrow, bad job by him. And I'm thinking, like, I'm watching this, and it didn't last very long, but I'm thinking, like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? Like Coach Pop, I'm assuming he does not eat a butterball turkey. He likes that knockoff store brand, the sour ball turkey, because he's a sour ball. He's a miserable, condescending, cantankerous, almost 75-year-old grump. One of these guys. I'm the smartest man in the room. And if you don't believe me, just ask him. Ask Pop. He'll tell you. And so I'm looking at all this go down with Popovich. And he's another guy. Like, he was a genius Hall of Fame coach when he had Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and players like that. And now he's a boob when those guys have left. Suddenly the Spurs blow like everyone else. There she blows, the San Antonio Spurs. Now, the other thought I had was this was Cincinnati-esque. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to take you back. If you're of a certain age, maybe you don't know what this is, but I'm going to take you on the Wayback Machine. We're going to set on the Wayback Machine, and you should get one of these if you ever get your own show. I recommend a Wayback Machine. So we're going to set the Wayback Machine to the year 1989. We're going to take you to an NFL stadium in Ohio. Fans were throwing projectiles, otherwise known as snowballs, and garbage at Cleveland Browns players, which... It's funny, this happened in 1989, and even today, fans are still throwing snowballs and garbage at Browns players. But anyway, and none of the players that are playing today just about were there, even alive in 1989. So Browns getting just rained down on snowballs and trash. So Bengals head coach Sam Weish decided he had had enough. He had to put a stop to it. So he walked all the way across the field to the other sideline. The Cincinnati coach walked over to the Cleveland sideline. He grabbed the public address microphone. Back in those days, they had an actual mic with a cable. He walked over, he grabs the mic, and he said, "Will the next person?" Well, here's what he said. Let's go to the audio. I cannot do this justice. One of the great sound bites in NFL history, and it's very similar. Listen to this and tell me you don't get the same vibe you got from Greg Popovich. Take a listen.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, and get them out of here? You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
And the crowd went wild, and he dropped the mic. It was like a WWF. That was what it was called back then, not WWE, WWF, a comedy routine. So I look at this, and it had a similar vibe. Now, Popovich made sure not to mention Kawhi by name. He was obviously talking about Kawhi. There was no one else on the Clippers being booed like Kawhi. So obviously Popovich, he didn't have the balls, Popovich, to say Kawhi's name. And he didn't say, I don't think he said San Antonio. He just said, you're better than that or whatever. But Sam White, still the undisputed all-time grab the microphone, scream at the fans, king. That last, if he had stopped just after, will the next person who sees anybody throw anything on the field point him out and get him out of here, that wouldn't have been all-time great. That would not have been all-time great. But the part where he said, you don't live in Cleveland, you live in Cincinnati, that's the money part. That's obvious, right? You know that. You don't need me to tell you that. Now, pitch two. Should the Spurs fans be annoyed with Greg Popovich's rant, or should they love it? And the arrow on this one is pointing to full annoyance. 1,000%. All right, we defend the paying customer. And I've had a love-hate relationship with our friends in San Antonio. We have a lot of listeners that live in that area and around San Antonio, out in suburbs and whatnot, that listen to the show, that have been very loyal to the show. We also have people that hate my guts, many of them Manu Ginobili fans, very upset about a rant I did several years ago. I had many people in Argentina upset with me because of my Ginobili rant, but that's a different conversation for another day. But on this one, I stand with the Spurs fans. Here's my take on this. If you spend your discretionary income on a basketball game, which is tremendously overpriced, regular season NBA, you don't get a lot of entertainment value on a standard night in the NBA. And you go out there because you love your team so much that you go out and you get laryngitis because you're booing. I'm fine with that, right? I'm fine with it. And San Antonio is an absolutely miserable team. They're a dog food team. And even though Kawhi's playing for a team I like, he is, in this Shakespearean drama, Kawhi Leonard is the heel. And I'm happy he's on the Clippers when he plays. He plays well when he plays. Still a good player. Doesn't play that much. This year he's actually played a lot. But regardless, if I lived in the Alamo City, I would boo Kawhi Leonard. He went AWOL. He forced his way off the team. You got to keep it real, right? What's Kawhi Leonard's position on this? Now, he was asked after the game, and he said, he pretended like he didn't really know what was going on. He's Marcel Marceau is what he is. He's he gives a shoulder shrug, and I don't know. Coach Pop acting like an overprotective parent. And it actually makes him look pretty bad. I mean, Kawhi Leonard, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think you're an adult man when you're 32 years old. I'm a man. I'm 32. Come after me. I'm a grown-ass man. To quote the Oklahoma State coach from back in the day. But Kawhi, I think he can defend himself. I think he's able to. I think the Claw can defend himself. All right, final point. So Greg Popovich seems to believe that booing is classless. Is that based in reality? So it's not based on my reality. Now, maybe Popovich, some of his takes, I think he does live in a different dimension than I live in because I look at things much differently than Popovich and all that things. But it's not my reality. In MALER Town, which I recommend you visit, there used to be a podcast named MALER Town, but then they never talked about the show, so they changed the name. But in MALER Town, it's an endorsement, right? Directing verbal raspberries at players is the ultimate sign of respect. And I remember there's a great quote by Mr. October, Reggie Jackson, who said they don't boo nobodies. That quote also was from Wilt Chamberlain before Reggie Jackson, but I heard it from Reggie Jackson. And I get it. People can be rude, crude, lewd, not just in Philadelphia, in Boston, and places like that. Even in sleepy San Antonio, people can be rude, but they didn't get physical. As long as you don't get physical and confront people and throw stuff at them, you're fine. But here's how I relate to the story. I do these monologues for a night. I do 4 hours of talk radio. I've got 3 hours of podcasting. I got half an hour of television a week. That's on my agenda every week. And if I don't have trolls attacking me for something I said, that's a sign I'm failing at my job, that my opinions are not strong enough, my takes are weak, I have no backbone. You understand? These cockroaches are good for my business. They listen longer. And these dummies watch these stupid videos they put up of me ranting, and they get all upset, and the company loves it because they make more money. And they're so obtuse, these morons, they don't even realize it. But on this one, Popovich, he also incriminated himself. He has coached in San Antonio since Bill Clinton was hanging out with Monica Lewinsky. Hello, there at the White House, and still needs to learn who the real San Antonio fan is. Now, that is a surprising development. That's surprising to me. You would think a guy that's been there for that long would know what makes the fan tick. But have a little class. Yeah, that's not who we are. That's absolutely who you are. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, every game Kawhi Leonard's played in San Antonio, outside of the COVID, he's been booed. And that's the way it should be. That's how it works. That's the relationship. All right, it is the Ben Maller Show, and normally I would say